welcome to Noonzzz. Here, sleep doesn't come from silence, but from a gentle story. You don't have to fall asleep just yet. Just stay a little longer. Everything will feel lighter soon. You arrive in the soft curve of late evening, when the sky has turned the color of lavender milk and the sea hums like something half asleep. The road behind you has fallen quiet, swallowed by hedgerows and mist, and before you now stands the house you've always remembered, though perhaps only in dreams. It sits gently on a rise above Fernhill Bay, wrapped in weathered shingles and old vines, its edges softened by years of salt air and slow sun. The shutters, once robin's egg blue, have faded to a gentle grey blue, flaking here and there like worn lace, but they still hold the charm of a place that's loved and lived in, and never hurried. At the very front of the porch hangs a lantern, round and glassy, with thin iron ribs. It sways softly in the hush of the breeze, casting a warm gold circle on the wooden boards beneath. You watch it swing as you walk closer, the gravel crunching softly underfoot, and feel something inside. You begin to quieten inner untangling, like loosening the laces of a too tight shoe. The porch steps creak just slightly as you climb them, the kind of creak that speaks not of disrepair, but of welcome of memory and use, and the thousand tiny arrivals before your own. The railing is smooth beneath your hand, sun-warmed and sea-worn, with little patches of lichen nestling in its corners. The key, of course, is exactly where it should be. In the third pot, along the sill, under the sleepy geraniums, and behind the little ceramic duck you don't remember buying but have always known. The key is old and brass, and a little cool to the touch, and when it turns in the lock, the door opens with the soft sigh of old hinges and waiting wood inside. The world is made of hush and wool and cedar. The air smells like lemon soap and something older, perhaps beeswax and old pages, or the memory of a fireplace long cooled. The wooden floor carries the gentle scuff of time, and your steps are muffled by a thick braided rug, soft under your shoes, its colors muted by evening light. To the left, a wide armchair sits by the window, slouched with comfort, its cushions shaped by the memory of countless quiet evenings. There's a small table beside it, with a teacup and an open book left just so, as if someone might return at any moment, but no one does, not yet. And the silence is not lonely, it's tender, and full of room for your breath. The kitchen is through a low archway, its tiles warm from the sun that once passed through hours earlier. The kettle sits atop the stove, squat and blue, with a round handle that fits perfectly in your palm. You reach for it automatically, and the clink of the enamel against the iron burner is satisfying in a way that has nothing to do with noise, and everything to do with feeling known. You fill it slowly at the old ceramic sink, the water cold and clear, the tap squeaking just faintly in that familiar, sweetly domestic way. A tin of tea waits beside the window, chamomile, loose leaf, with tiny golden blossoms that catch the last of the light like stars fallen into your palm. You spoon them gently into the strainer and wait as the water begins to whisper and then sing. While the tea steeps, you walk back through the front room. There are photographs on the walls, soft and sepia boats in the bay, children in woolen hats, a dog asleep on the porch steps. There's a piano in the corner, its keys gently dusted, and on top of it, a jar of dried lavender and a little wooden duck that matches the one on the porch. You open a window just slightly, enough for the sea breeze to wander in. It brings with it the scent of salt and wild grass, and the faintest breath of rain that might or might not come. Somewhere far below, the waves lap against the shore with the rhythm of a cradle's sway. The tea is ready now, its scent curling into the air like the beginning of a lullaby. You pour it into a wide mug, worn at the rim, and carry it back to the armchair. As you settle in, the cushion gives just enough beneath you, like a good friend leaning in to listen. Outside, the fog thickens its slow embrace around the house. The lantern on the porch glows more brightly now against the dusk, and the trees at the edge of the garden blur into gentle silhouettes. Everything is still, but never empty. It is a stillness full of story, of slow breaths, of belonging. You sip your tea and feel the warmth spread through your hands, your chest, the space behind your eyes. The book on the side table remains closed for now. You're not in a reading mood just yet. It's enough to sit, to feel, to let the day exhale around you. A clock ticks softly in the next room, and somewhere in the walls, the house makes a sound, like settling, like stretching after a nap, or the sigh of old wood remembering how to rest. A branch taps once, twice, gently at the window pane. Then, without sound, she appears. A cat, ash grey with white paws, steps quietly into the room. Her eyes are the soft gold of lantern light, and her movement is all grace and ease. She hops onto the ottoman, circles once, then curls into a tight crescent of fur and contentment. She doesn't look at you, but somehow you feel thoroughly acknowledged. You smile, and perhaps say hello, though softly so as not to disturb the quiet that has built like mist around you. The cat purrs faintly, a small sound like the stirring of wind over tall grass, and you let your head rest back against the cushion. In this house, in this chair, in this moment, there is nothing undone. No edges that need smoothing, no voices that need answering, just the fire waiting to be lit, the tea warm in your hands, the fog pressing soft against the glass, and you exactly where you're meant to be. You wake to the sound of birdsong, not the bright chatter of morning sparrows, nor the distant call of gulls, though they're there somewhere, but the gentle fluting of something quieter, a soft, reedy tone, like a bird that's forgotten. It needs to be heard. The kind of sound that drifts in through open windows and lingers like mist above tea. The room is dim with early light, that soft grey-blue glow that only happens in old houses near the sea. You don't rush to rise. Instead, you lie still for a few minutes beneath the weight of a thick woolen blanket. The texture slightly nubbled against your skin, the scent faintly of lavender and sun-dried cotton. There's no alarm, no meeting, no schedule. Only this morning, this breath, this quiet. Eventually, you swing your legs over the side of the bed, the wooden floor cool beneath your feet. The slippers are right where you expect them, soft, padded, and slightly squashed at the heel end. You shuffle into them with the sleepy clumsiness that only belongs to true rest. The hallway greets you like a friend who knows not to speak to early. It stretches with quiet shadows, soft beams of dusty light cutting through the open doorways. You pad gently down its length, one hand trailing along the old painted wall, fingertips brushing against the dips and dents of years past. The kitchen is waiting, it always is. The room is filled with the sort of morning hush that lives only in places where clocks tick softly and nothing clicks or buzzes. The stove, a dark green enamel with rounded edges, gleams faintly in the pale light. The kettle is right where you left it, empty now, but patient. You set about the task of breakfast, like someone performing a remembered dance. The cupboard door creaks as you open it, revealing jars and tins, each carefully labeled in handwritten script. You choose oats and dried figs, honey in a little ceramic pot with a wooden dipper, and a splash of milk from the glass bottle tucked in the back of the fridge. A saucepan comes down from its hook, heavy and familiar. You fill it with water, light the burner, and watch as the flame curls blue and steady beneath the pot. It's an old stove, and it takes its time, but so do you. This is not a morning for haste. While the oats simmer, you open the back door, just slightly, letting in a ribbon of sea air and the soft sounds of the garden beyond. There's dew on the stone path, shining like silver beads, and the rosemary bushes shimmer with moisture. Somewhere under the hydrangea, you're quite sure the cat is watching you, though she doesn't appear. Not yet. You return to the kitchen and give the oats a gentle stir, the wooden spoon smooth against your palm. The aroma of warmth and grain fills the room, and when it's ready, you spoon it into a deep bowl. Drizzle honey in slow, looping spirals, and tuck the figs gently on top like quiet decorations. You carry it to the little breakfast table by the window, where a linen cloth covers the wood beneath, pale and a bit wrinkled, with a vase of wildflowers, some just beginning to droop in the center. The chair welcomes you with a soft creak. You sit, you eat, slowly, thoughtfully. Outside, the bay is barely visible through the morning fog. The water blends with the sky, both a gentle silver, like brushed metal left out in the dew. The world feels wrapped in cotton. Even the wind seems hesitant to rise. With your bowl empty, you return to the kitchen for the next comforting ritual. Tea. You select a blend, this time from a small glass jar labeled Fernhill Morning. You open it, and the scent greets you like an old friend, a mingling of lemon balm, a hint of mint, and something warm and grounding beneath, like calendula or soft rosemary. You don't need to know the recipe to know it's right. The kettle hisses as it heats, and you let your fingers rest around the ceramic mug while you wait. The mug is thick and slightly uneven, clearly handmade, with a thumbprint just beneath the glaze. You like that something human and imperfect in your hands, something real. When the water's ready, you pour it over the tea, watching the herbs swirl and bloom beneath the surface. The scent rises, fragrant and herbal, and you carry the mug to the back step, where the stone is still cool from the night. You sit and sip and breathe. The fog begins to shift slightly now, revealing the edge of the garden, tall grass bending under pearls of moisture, an old wheelbarrow half covered in moss, a faded blue watering can tipped on its side. You spot a single snail tracing its slow way along the stone, and for a while you watch its progress, fascinated by the unhurried determination of its tiny journey. The cat appears then, stepping lightly onto the path as though summoned by your thoughts. She walks with delicate purpose, tail raised, eyes half-lidded. She pauses at your side, but doesn't settle. Instead, she lifts her chin to the air and smells the morning like a fine perfume. Eventually, she moves on, disappearing into the mist again, as though she's part of it. You smile and return to your tea. The warmth has mellowed, but the taste is soft and bright on your tongue, and you sip it slowly until the mug is empty. The world around you hums in that peculiar way early hours do when everything is both just beginning and completely at peace. Somewhere, a breeze stirs the chimes that hang from the eaves, their soft music carrying lightly through the fog. You feel no pull to check a clock, no urge to plan. The hours ahead are wide and generous, like freshly made beds or long train rides with nowhere urgent to be. And as the fog lifts just enough to hint at a path down toward the sea, you think perhaps a walk, perhaps later, but for now, just this. The empty mug, the quiet kitchen behind you, the cool stone step beneath your feet, the garden humming in its slow, secret language, and you at the edge of a day that has no demands. The fog lingers like a soft shawl draped across the shoulders of the hillside, and you step into it as one might step into a dream, not to chase anything, not to arrive anywhere, but simply to be inside something hushed and gentle. You walk slowly, your boots brushing against damp grass and gravel, your breath clouding faintly in the morning air. The path behind the house begins just beyond the rosemary hedge, marked by a weathered wooden gate that swings open with the quiet groan of old iron. You pass through it without needing to think, as though your feet already know the way. The world is still wet with dew, and the fog hangs low, resting just above the earth like it's tired too. Along the path, ferns unfurl in spirals of soft green, their delicate fronds glistening with tiny beads of moisture that catch what little light filters through the veil. You reach out and let your fingers brush one of them, the texture cool and slightly furry, like velvet with a memory of rain. It's quiet, but not silent. There are bird calls, gentle and far off, a faint rustle of leaves in the breeze, and beneath it all, the low murmur of the sea, ever present, like a giant sleeping just out of sight. Every sound is softened by the fog, rounded at the edges, made tender by the air. The path winds gently through the slope, curving alongside a line of old stones that rise from the earth in uneven shapes. Some are moss-covered, some half swallowed by grass. They mark an old boundary, perhaps, or maybe they were placed here for beauty alone. Either way, they feel like part of the story the land is telling. You pause at a bend in the path where a wooden bench sits beneath a wide-armed tree, its bark peeling in long, slow curls. The bench is damp, but you don't mind. You sit anyway, letting the weight of the day fall away, replaced by the lightness of being surrounded by things that do not ask for anything from you. From here, you can see the shape of the sea beyond, the fog just the suggestion of motion, a silver shimmer where the sky and water meet in their endless, tender conversation. There's something comforting in not seeing it clearly, as though the mystery itself is a kind of kindness, as though not knowing is a form of rest. You sit for a long while. Eventually, you rise and continue, your footsteps soft and deliberate. The earth smells rich and damp beneath your soles, and the air grows sweeter as you walk, touched now by the scent of bay, laurel and pine. At a small clearing, you find an old bird bath, cracked at the rim and full of rainwater. A single feather floats on its surface, drifting slowly like a leaf on a quiet pond. Near the base of the bird bath, violets bloom. Their purple petals are so vivid against the green it almost feels like they glow. You kneel beside them, fingertips hovering just above their softness, and for a moment, you let yourself imagine that the world is made of nothing but flowers and fog, and it would be enough. The path narrows slightly ahead, bordered now by taller grasses and the occasional stone step embedded in the slope. Your steps slow even further. You don't want to miss anything. The way the mist curls along the edges of the leaves, the sound of a distant woodpecker, the delicate webs strung between stems, trembling slightly with droplets. As you round another gentle curve, you find yourself beneath a small canopy of trees. Their branches interlace overhead, forming a kind of whispering tunnel. Here, the fog thickens again, wrapping the space in a pale hush. Light filters through in slanted beams, and you walk through them like walking through liquid gold, every step a soft immersion. You pause again beneath one of the larger trees, resting your palm against its trunk. It's wide and solid, its bark ridged like memory, cool beneath your touch. There's a small carving there, barely visible now, weathered by time, 2 initials, intertwined. You smile softly, not wondering who they were, but simply feeling glad they were. There's something sacred about this path, not in a grand, stained glass sort of way, but in the quiet, unspoken holiness of things that have endured, of roots that go deep and leaves that return every spring without fanfare. You don't need to explain it. You simply feel it, like warmth on your skin or the weight of a blanket at night. Eventually, the path begins to slope gently downward, and you know you're nearing the back of the house again. You catch a glimpse of the chimney rising above the trees, a thin curl of smoke, trailing upward in a lazy spiral. The thought of the fire waiting there, the scent of ash and pine. The soft orange flicker fills you with a quiet gladness. The cat is waiting on the stone steps. When you return, she blinks at you once, slow and unbothered, then stretches out her front paws and arches her back in an elegant yawn. You nod at her because it feels appropriate, and she rises without a sound, slipping inside as though she's been keeping the house warm for you. You follow. Back inside, the air is dry and soft and welcoming. The walk has left a slight chill on your skin, and the fire, yes, someone has lit it again, offers its warmth with open arms. You shed your coat, your boots, your thoughts, and settle once more into the day, as though into a deep chair. The kettle sits expectantly on the stove, and a fresh sprig of mint lies waiting beside the mug. Outside, the fog still holds the garden in its gentle grasp, and everything feels wrapped in calm. You've walked through a morning made of mist and moss, of ferns and silence and soft stone. You've listened to the earth breathe, and now you are home again. Later in the afternoon, when the fog has begun to lift and the light has turned a buttery shade of soft gold, you find yourself drawn toward the back of the house. The kind of gentle pull that isn't urgency, but a quiet invitation, like the warmth of a patch of sun on the floor, or the scent of something just baked, drifting through a window left ajar. You open the back door and step outside again, this time into a world beginning to remember sunlight. The garden greets you like a friend still waking from a nap, yawning in the breeze, stretching its stems. The leaves are still damp from the fog, but the mist has grown thinner now, and everything shines with that after-rain glow. You can smell lavender and lemon balm, and something faintly earthy, like the dark soil freshly stirred by roots. A narrow stone path leads from the doorstep through the garden, its edges flanked by rosemary and marjoram, their little leaves brushing your ankles as you walk. You trail your fingers across them gently, releasing their scents into the air. A bee hums nearby, lazy and unhurried, drifting from one flower to the next, like it has nowhere better to be. As you round the corner of the hedgerow, you come to the garden gate. It's not a grand gate, nor even especially straight. The paint has long since faded to a soft grey, and the hinges creak slightly as you push it open. But it swings easily, as if still remembering the rhythm of 100 afternoons, just like this one. The latch clicks behind you, a quiet punctuation. Beyond the gate, the garden opens into a wider space, half-tamed, half-wild. A patch of wildflowers has taken hold in the far corner, swaying in the mild breeze. Foxglove and daisies, bluebells and soft yellow poppies. The grass is high in places, brushing against your calves as you step through it, and here and there you spot flat stones laid like stepping pads, half hidden now beneath moss. In the center of it all sits a weathered bench, tucked beneath the dappled shade of an old pear tree. Its wood has silvered with age, the grain rising like soft ripples, and tiny patches of lichen grow along its arms. You reach it slowly, letting each step sink deeper into the softness of the earth, and lower yourself onto the bench, with the quiet satisfaction of finding exactly the place your body needs. The tree above you sighs gently, its leaves fluttering like a whisper. Pears hang low from its branches, some not yet ripe, others beginning to sweeten in the sun. One lies at your feet, fallen gently onto the grass, unbruised and golden. You reach down to pick it up, its skin cool and smooth in your palm. The scent is light and fragrant, like honey and summer folded together. You don't eat it, not yet. You simply hold it, letting your thumb rest against the curve of its shape, letting it anchor you in the moment. From your seat, the house is just visible through the hedge's windows, catching the light, the chimney still trailing a wisp of smoke. It looks like something from a storybook, not grand, not elaborate, but quietly perfect in its own quiet way. You lean back against the bench and let your gaze drift. There are birds in the tree above you, small ones with dark heads and quick movements. They flit and dip through the branches, pausing now and again to chirp or preen, or simply sit. One lands briefly on the edge of the bench, its head tilted to the side, as though curious about your presence. You smile at it, and it flutters away without alarm. Nearby, a terracotta pot overflows with mint, its green spilling like laughter over the rim. A wind chime hangs from a branch above, its pieces carved from seashells and driftwood. When the breeze brushes through, it makes the most delicate sound, a whisper of the coast, a memory of tide pools and sun-warmed sand. You close your eyes. For a while, you simply breathe. You can feel the shape of the pear still resting in your palm. You can hear the buzz of a bee looping somewhere behind you. The wood of the bench is warm where it meets your legs. Everything feels placed, held, slow, and in that stillness, there's something else, too. Not thought exactly, but presence, a fullness, a kind of wordless gratitude for soft things, for warm places, for the ability to sit quietly and be a part of a world that asks nothing of you. Eventually, you rise. You place the pear gently back on the earth at the base of the tree where others have fallen. A gift returned, a moment left behind as you walk back toward the house. The wind shifts slightly, carrying with it the smell of something sweet and distant, perhaps from the cottage nearby, or perhaps from some imagined kitchen long ago. It mixes with the rosemary and the sun-warmed wood of the gate. As you pass through it again, the cat waits just inside the back door. She stretches, arching her spine in a motion that feels like a poem. Then, tail high, she slips past you and pads softly into the garden, as if to check that everything is still as it should be. You follow her gaze one last time before stepping back inside, and once again, the lantern house receives you not with ceremony, but with a quiet that wraps around your shoulders like a shawl, as if it's been waiting gently for your return. The afternoon settles into the house like honey poured slowly from a spoon. Golden light spills through the windows, warm and thick, catching the soft edges of furniture, trailing over the curves of doorknobs and the folds of curtains. Dust motes float lazily in the beams, dancing with no hurry at all. It is the kind of light that feels alive, as if the house itself has exhaled and found comfort in its own stillness. You make your way through the hallway, the wooden floor smooth and warm beneath your socks. The house creaks a little as you move, but not in protest. The language of old wood, of beams and joists, whispering in slow, sleepy tones. You pass the narrow staircase, the alcove with its row of hooks and soft hanging scarves, and come at last to the door you hadn't opened yet today. The window room. Its name isn't carved in any sign or written in a notebook, but in your mind, that's what it's always been called. A small room, square and quiet, with windows on 3 sides and a view that stretches out over the hill and the slow curve of the bay below. You push the door open with the gentlest nudge, and the scent of sun-warmed fabric greets you like a welcome dot. Everything in the room feels touched by light. The armchair near the corner window has faded on one side from years of sunshine, its upholstery a softened shade of oatmeal. A small side table sits beside it, made from weathered pine, its surface holding a neat stack of books, a pair of reading glasses, and a half-burned beeswax candle. There's a low bookshelf beneath the sill, filled with paperbacks whose spines are worn from countless readings, and a woven basket of folded blankets tucked neatly into the corner. The floorboards creak once beneath your foot as you step in, and then quiet. You move slowly, reverently, as though entering a chapel made not of stone and stained glass, but of silence and stories. You lower yourself into the armchair, and it gives under your weight with the perfect amount of sigh. The cushion beneath you remembers how to cradle. The back holds you without asking for effort. You lean your head against the edge of the frame and let your eyes wander. Outside, the sky is still pale with the memory of fog, but it's clearing now, revealing more of the bay and the grassy hills beyond. You can see the faint ripple of the water in the distance, and the white shape of a gull moving slowly across the sky. The world beyond the glass seems slowed, softened, smoothed by light. You reach to the side table and pick up the book on top of the stack. Its cover is linen, frayed at the corners. You don't recognize the title, but when you open it, the pages are thick and slightly yellowed, the words set in a typeface that feels like an old friend's handwriting. You don't begin at the first page. Instead, you flip through slowly, letting the book fall open where it will. A story about a lighthouse, a woman who walked the same path each morning, a child who built miniature boats and set them adrift on rain puddles. You read a few pages, not because the story insists on being followed, but because it feels like the right thing to do, like lighting a candle or brewing tea. Something quiet and deliberate, something rooted in the simple act of being present. Eventually, you rest the book in your lap and close your eyes. The chair is warm beneath you, the blanket tucked across your knees. A breeze comes through the slightly open window, just enough to stir the air, carrying the faint scent of something flowering, perhaps the last of the garden roses, or the honeysuckle near the fence. You hear the distant creak of the house settling. A bird sings once from a tree just outside, then silence again, as thick and comforting as wool. Time slows. You drift. Not quite asleep, not fully awake. There are no sharp edges in this room. No demands. No clocks ticking too loudly. Only softness. Only ease. And when you open your eyes, again, you do so not because something has asked you to, but because the light has shifted slightly, and the moment feels ready to stretch into the next one. You fold the blanket more snugly around yourself and let your gaze trail across the windowsills. There's a small collection of objects placed there, quiet treasures left by whoever lived here before, or perhaps by yourself, long ago. A smooth stone, flat and pale, shaped like a heart. A tiny glass bottle with a cork stopper, half filled with white sand. A blue feather. A folded note, edges browned with age. You don't reach for any of them. Not yet. Just seeing them is enough. They are the punctuation marks of quiet days, of meandering hours, of afternoons spent just like this one, wrapped in wool, soaked in sunlight, accompanied only by the gentle rhythm of breath and story. The light through the windows has turned softer now, tinged with amber. It slides down the walls like syrup, catching in the folds of the curtains and making shadows stretch gently across the floor. You could stay here forever, you think, and in a way, you do. Not with urgency, not with permanence, but with presence, with stillness, with the kind of belonging that doesn't need to be declared to be true. The wind outside has shifted again, and you hear the faint sound of wind chimes somewhere in the garden. The cat is curled on the windowsill now, her eyes half closed, one paw draped over the edge, like she's holding the room in place. You smile, just a little, and breathe, letting the light hold you, just as the chair does, just as the house does, and you let the day drift forward, quiet and golden. Later in the day, as the light outside shifts gently toward evening and the shadows stretch long and soft across the floorboards, you return to the front room. The fire has long since gone out, leaving behind only a memory of warmth and a faint scent of pine ash. But the room still holds its glow from the windows, from the stillness, from something deeper than flame. You move slowly, not from tiredness, but from that quiet kind of presence that comes after hours of no hurry. The cat is dozing on the rug now, her tail curled around her nose, her chest rising and falling in that perfect rhythm of contentment. The ticking of the old wall clock marks the passing of time in the softest way, steady, unintrusive, like the heartbeat of the house itself. As your eyes drift over the shelves and side tables, something catches your attention. It's not bright, not showy, just the gentle gleam of worn leather peeking out from beneath a folded linen cloth. You step closer, gently lift the fabric aside, and find an old journal resting quietly underneath. Its cover is smooth with age, creased at the edges, the leather darkened by years of fingers and seasons. You carry it to the armchair, the one beside the window where the light is still good, and sit down with the kind of care reserved for things both old and beloved. The journal opens easily, as though it remembers being held. The pages are thick, cream-colored, the ink faded to a gentle brown. The handwriting is careful but not overly neat-flowing, full of loops and pauses, like someone who thought before they wrote but didn't edit too much. You run your fingers along the edge of the page and begin to read. May 3rd, light rain this morning. The rosemary is blooming again earlier than last year, I think. There's a nest just beneath the back windowsill. 3 eggs, pale blue, speckled like sea glass. I didn't disturb them, just watched for a while. You smile, already hearing the voice behind the words. Not a loud voice, not the kind that demands to be heard, but one that observes, that notices, the kind of voice that lives in quiet rooms and walks barefoot through morning grass. You turn the page. June 12th. I sat on the garden bench this afternoon, the one beneath the pear tree. The light came through the branches like honey, and I closed my eyes and listened. Nothing urgent, only bees and the wind and the kind of silence that fills you instead of empties you. You recognize the moments, not exactly as your own, but close enough to feel familiar. The journal is not dramatic. There are no secrets, no sorrows, no thrilling adventures. Just the record of days spent paying attention. Notes on weather and teacups, on the way the light moves across the floor at different times of year, on the sound of rain tapping on the glass. A life gently held, carefully observed. September 28th. Found an old recipe in the back of the cupboard. Lemon loaf with rosemary syrup. Tried it this afternoon. The kitchen smelled like sunlight and leaves. Ate 2 slices while standing barefoot at the sink. I think that counts as joy. You chuckle softly at that, and tuck your feet beneath you, on the chair. The journal rests open on your lap now, its weight somehow comforting, the presence of it, the quiet voice across the pages, makes the room feel fuller, not crowded, but shared. As if the house has been holding stories, not just in its walls, but in its drawers and corners, to waiting, not forgotten, just paused. October 15th, fog all day. The kind that makes the trees disappear and the world feel like it's folded in half. I lit the lantern early, sat by the window and wrote letters I'll never send. Not because I couldn't, just because writing them was enough. You pause, letting those words linger in the air. Writing them was enough. You wonder, briefly, if it was always the same person who wrote in this journal or several people across the years. The handwriting changes slightly here and there, sometimes more looping, sometimes a bit tighter, but the voice is steady, familiar. Or perhaps the house simply shapes everyone who stays here in its own quiet image. Softer, slower, more at home in stillness. There are pressed flowers tucked between some of the pages, thin and brittle now, but still carrying the soft colors of lavender, clover, chamomile. You touch them gently, marveling at their resilience. Small, quiet things, kept not for show, but for memory. November 6th. Made soup, onion and thyme. ate it with the window open and the cat on my lap. The fire crackled like it knew stories of its own. I didn't do much else. Didn't need to. The entries begin to thin out near the end. A few notes here and there. A sketch of a feather. A list of birds seen from the upstairs window. A quote from a poem written without attribution. Let it be enough to watch the light change. You read it again, then close the journal softly and hold it to your chest for a long moment. The room is still. Outside, the sky has deepened into evening blue, and a few stars have begun to appear through the highest corners of the window pane. The house glows gently, not from fire or lantern yet, but from the quiet held within its walls. You rise and return the journal to its resting place, sliding it back beneath the linen cloth as though tucking in a sleeping child. And then, slowly, you move to the kitchen to light the lantern in the window. The match flares briefly in the hush, and the glass glows with its familiar amber hue, the kind of glow that says, someone is home. The cat joins you a moment later, her tail brushing against your ankle as you both look out at the deepening dusk. You don't speak, you don't need to. The house has told you its story tonight, and the quiet has said more than enough. Evening settles around the house like a shawl pulled gently over the shoulders of the world. Outside the windows, the garden dims into silhouettes. The trees become shadows, and the distant curve of the bay fades into blue-grey dusk. The last of the sunlight lingers only in the upper air, where a single gull glides soundlessly across the quieting sky. Everything feels as though it's exhaling long and low and slow. You move through the house in near silence, letting the moments shape themselves around you. No lights yet, not the full kind. Just the glow of the lantern by the window, the memory of day clinging to the window panes, and the soft thought that it might be time for tea. The kettle is filled again, set on the stove, the gentle flame coaxed to life with a soft whoosh. The room takes on a golden warmth as the stove heats and the air begins to shift. You pull down a tin labeled evening blend, its lid fitting with a quiet papand, the scent of chamomile, rose petals, and a touch of orange peel greets you like the sigh of a well-loved story. You spoon the tea into a strainer and set it into a ceramic pot speckled white, rounded, with a small chip on the spout that somehow makes it feel even more cherished. As the kettle begins to sing, not loudly but with a hushed insistence, you pour the water slowly, watching steam rise like the last of the daylight, curling upward and fading into the ceiling beams. While the tea steeps, you gather a blanket from the woven basket in the corner and bring it to the front room. The fire is ready for lighting, the logs placed with care on top of soft kindling, the scent of pine and cedar waiting patiently in the still air. You strike a match. The flame flares in your hand, then dips as you lower it to the heart of the fire. A moment later, the wood catches with a small crackle, a flicker, a breath, then another, then more. Soon the fireplace glows with the steady rhythm of flame, light bouncing across the hearthstones and brushing the floor in slow-moving shadows. The air warms gradually, curling around you like a thick sweater, like the kind worn on early winter mornings before the sun is fully risen. You return to the kitchen to collect the pot of tea, now perfectly steeped, and bring it along with your favorite mug, a wide, low vessel that fits your palms just right. The tea is pale gold in the firelight, fragrant and slightly floral, sweet without needing sugar. You settle into the armchair closest to the fire, the blanket over your lap, the mug cradled in both hands. The cat is already there, curled in her chosen spot by the hearth, one ear twitching slightly as the wood crackles and shifts. No words are needed. The room holds everything in silence. You sip slowly. The tea is warm and mellow, the rose delicate, the orange peel bright at the edges. Each mouthful is a small moment, a soft anchor, something to hold your focus gently in place. On the mantel, above the fire, there are 3 small framed pictures. You've seen them before, but now, in the firelight, they seem to speak differently. One is of the garden in spring, full bloom and soft green. Another of the bay at low tide, ripples across the sand. The third shows the house itself, lantern lit, fog curling around its base like smoke. The house, as it always has been, safe, waiting. Here, you finish the tea slowly, the warmth lingering in your throat, in your chest, in your fingertips. You rest the mug on the side table and let your body settle deeper into the chair. The fire cracks again, a gentle pop, and a faint scent of pine resin sweetens the air. The clock in the hallway chimes once, not loudly, just a single note. You glance at it, and then don't again. The hour doesn't matter now. Outside, night has fully arrived. The stars are beginning to appear, just a few at first, shy and quiet, then more, one by one, like someone gently lighting candles across the sky. You can't see them all from your seat, but you know they're there, shining without urgency. The cat stirs, stretches, and resettles, a small sound of contentment humming from her throat. You reach down to touch her fur, soft, warm, familiar. She leans into your hand for a brief moment, then returns to sleep in the stillness. You feel yourself begin to unfurl, not like waking, but like opening. The kind of opening that only comes with full presence, with the permission to just be, without story, without striving, like the way a flower opens to moonlight, even when no one is watching. You breathe in and out, in again. The fire sways softly in the hearth. A log shifts and sends a cascade of small sparks dancing up the chimney, like fireflies, like tiny stars, rising to meet the larger ones above. The tea is finished. The light is low. The blanket holds you just right. And in this hour, with no demands and no noise, with the house whispering round you in warmth and shadow, you feel not just calm but whole, as if nothing is missing, as if you've returned, not only to a place, but to yourself. The fire, the cat, the stillness, all of it, here, now, exactly as it should be. You notice her more this evening, not just as a presence near the hearth, or a whisper of fur brushing past your leg, but as a part of the house itself. The cat with ash-grey fur and white paws, who moves through the lantern house like she has lived a dozen lifetimes within its walls, and maybe more beyond. She is not new to you, and yet tonight, she feels somehow newly important. You watch as she stretches, long and slow, from where she's curled on the braided rug. Her back arches, high, tail a question mark in the air, front paws reaching forward into a slow knead of the wooden floor. She yawns soundlessly, mouth wide, eyes closed, like she trusts the quiet around her completely. When she finishes, she pads across the room and hops onto the windowsill in a single fluid motion. The lantern outside glows warm against the night, and her silhouette appears beside it. Cat and lantern, stillness and light. You follow her there, not to disturb, just to be near. Outside, the world has turned dark, but not cold. The fog has stayed away tonight, giving the stars room to scatter freely across the sky. You can see the outline of the trees beyond the garden, their branches waving gently, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of the tide returns, and low and steady, the cat's tail flicks once. She doesn't look at you, but you feel her noticing. You rest your elbows gently on the window ledge, your gaze tracing the pattern of her fur, where the light catches the soft curve of her back. It's not a uniform grade. There are pale patches along her sides, a hint of cream at the edges of her ears. She is perfectly imperfect, like everything in this house. For a while, the two of you simply watch. There is nothing to see, not really, and yet everything is there. The sway of the rosemary in the dark, the flicker of the lantern's reflection on the glass, a moth drifting slowly in circles beneath the porch beam, the cat's quiet breathing. Eventually, she jumps down silent, graceful, like falling in reverse. She walks through the house with purpose now, and you follow at a respectful distance, as though being invited into a ritual. Through the hallway, past the coat hooks and their scarves, and into the room you hadn't planned on visiting tonight. The study. You haven't spent much time here yet, but the cat has. There, nestled beside a tall bookshelf, is a second armchair. It is smaller than the one by the fire, a bit more firm, with a throw pillow tucked neatly into its back. The cat leaps up into it, turns once, then settles with the kind of practiced finality that says, "This is mine. This has always been mine." You smile and sit across from her, in the chair by the writing desk. The room smells faintly of paper and cedar, with a touch of lavender that seems to cling to the curtains. There's a lamp in the corner, old brass, with a warm, amber bowl band. Its glow casts long shadows along the floor, soft and layered like folds in a blanket. On the desk, there's a small notebook. Not the leather-bound kind you found earlier, but something simpler. Its cover is plain, dark blue, the corners rounded from use. You open it gently. Inside, lists, no dates, no context, just words. Things to notice. The way light falls through steam-warm fur under fingertips, a curled leaf in a puddle, the first breath after waking you. Read them slowly, as though tasting. Each one feels like something the cat herself might have written if she could, if she wished to. A catalogue of quiet moments, observations made not with urgency, but with the fullness of presence. The notebook is less like a journal and more like a hymn, a reverence for the everyday. You glance up, and the cat is watching you now. Her eyes are soft, pale gold, catching the lamplight like polished glass. There is no expectation in her gaze, only awareness. She blinks slowly, then closes her eyes again. Content. You return the notebook to the desk and just sit. There's something profoundly still about this room, about this moment. No sound except the occasional creak of the floor settling, the soft hum of the lamp, the cat's slow breathing. You think about how many evenings she's known in this house, how many sunrises she's watched from the windowsills, how many guests she's welcomed, not with noise, but with presence, with her small, steady being. She is not a pet, not exactly. She is more like a guardian, of quiet, of rhythm, of time moving the way it's meant to. And you, in following her tonight, have stepped into that rhythm more deeply. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. The cat sleeps. The room rests. The house breathes. The house breathes. And you feel, without knowing how or why, that you are being kept gently, wordlessly, completely. It begins softly. A hush, then a patter, then the quiet rhythm of raindrops landing on the porch roof. The sound moves through the house like a sigh, one that seems to arrive from a distance, carried over the curve of the bay, down through the garden, until it reaches the windows of the lantern house and settles in like a lullaby. You hear it first from the study, where the cat still dozes in her chair, her ears twitching slightly at the change in weather, but otherwise unbothered. You remain there for a while, listening as the rain picks up just a little, enough to trace new music along the window pane. Soft, a rhythmic, silvery dot. It's the kind of rain that doesn't demand you stay indoors, but suggests it gently, like a hand offered at the start of a slow waltz. Eventually, you rise and move through the quiet hallway toward the front of the house. The floors creak beneath you, your footsteps muted by wall socks and memory. You pass the bookshelf, the sloped wall, the small framed map of the coastline. Every object feels still, listening. In the front room, you pause by the window. Outside, the world has turned gentle. Rain streaks the glass in slow rivulets, catching light from the lantern on the porch. The gravel path glistens now, and puddles form between the stones, reflecting tiny golden halos from above. The garden beyond sways slightly, leaves dipping under the touch of each drop. The sea, just barely visible, hums low and even, like a great creature asleep in the distance. You press your palm lightly to the glass. It's cool beneath your skin, smooth, with just the faintest tremble where the rain meets it. There's something soothing in watching it fall, each drop different, each one part of the same soft conversation. The kind of sound that fills a room without taking it over, that invites you to curl in, slow down, breathe deeper. You light the fire again, not for warmth, but for company. The flames catch easily, crackling back into life, casting their light across the floor and flickering gently up the walls. The scent of smoke and wood returns, blending with the petrichor rising from the earth outside. A harmony of wet air and dry hearth, of storm and shelter. You brew another pot of tea, this time with lavender and oat straw, a blend marked nightfall. The kettle sings its familiar tune, and the steam curls upward like a spirit uncoiling. You pour it slowly, the liquid catching the glow of the room, golden and calm. With your mug in hand, you return to the window seat. A cushion waits there, firm but yielding, its edges worn from years of quiet evenings, just like this. You sink into it, tuck your legs beneath you, and wrap a knitted shawl over your shoulders. The cat follows, not long after, silent, graceful, and hops onto the sill beside you. She sits, alert but relaxed, her eyes watching the rain with the same quiet wonder as yours. Together, you listen, dot the drops on the glass, the hiss of wind against the corner eaves, the occasional gust that rattles the porch railings and then moves on like a guest passing through. It feels like the house is breathing with you now, expanding with the hush of rain, contracting with the silence between each sound. There's something about rain at night that rearranges time. The clock ticks, but not as loudly. The minutes stretch. You sip your tea more slowly, not out of deliberation, but because your body no longer remembers how to rush. Your gaze drifts to the bookshelf nearby, where an old radio rests between two sea-polished stones. You reach for it, turn the dial gently. A quiet station hums to life instrumentals only. A piano, soft and slow, its notes drifting like raindrops across old wood. You let the music blend with the weather. It becomes one dot, note and drop, chord and wind. The fire crackles. The cat purrs. The shawl holds you gently. This is what it means to rest, you think, not merely to pause, but to be completely inside a moment, to allow the outside world to blur behind the raindrops, to let stillness become your only movement. You lean your head back against the wooden frame and close your eyes for a moment, just to listen. Just to feel the tea is warm in your hands. The room is safe around you. The rain continues, never hurrying, never stopping, just falling softly. Gently, like everything it touches belongs to it. You breathe in deeply. The scent of lavender, the hint of smoke, the damp earth beyond the walls. You exhale slowly. The rain continues to speak, and you continue to listen. The rain has settled now into a steady, contented rhythm, like it's decided to stay a while, perhaps the whole evening, perhaps all night. And inside the lantern house, something quiet within you stirs, not the kind of movement that asks for action, but the gentle hum of comfort-seeking expression. You're not hungry, not really. It isn't about hunger, it's about scent, warmth, a quiet kind of joy, so you rise from the window seat. The cat still curled beside the glass, and moves slowly toward the kitchen. Your shawl slips from your shoulders as you pass the fire, and you drape it gently across the back of a chair. The house welcomes your motion, as if it's been waiting for this next soft step in the evening. The kitchen glows in the light of two low lamps, one above the stove, one on the counter beneath the cabinets. No overhead glare, just pools of gold and shadow where your hands can work in peace. The window above the sink shows nothing now but rain, and the faint reflection of your own movements. You open the tall pantry door. Inside, shelves lined with jars, tins, and little handwritten labels greet you like old friends. You run your finger along a row of flour bags. Behind them, a small tin with delicate blue flowers around its lid. You recognize it instantly, though you hadn't thought of it until just now. It's the lemon cake tin. You set it on the counter and lift the lid slowly. Inside, folded carefully in two, is a recipe written on aged paper, the corners curled and the ink softly smudged from time and fingertips. The handwriting is familiar, though you don't know whose. Slanted, soft loops, letters leaning slightly left as if they, too, are relaxed. Lemon loaf with butter glaze, you read it once, then again. It's simple, gentle, no steps longer than a breath, no measurements to exact. The kind of recipe that's been made 100 times not to impress, but to comfort. You begin. Flour first, then sugar, a pinch of salt, butter, softened in a ceramic bowl that fits your hands like a memory. You zest a lemon slowly, its fragrance blooming into the air, bright, sharp, then mellow. You squeeze the juice and let it pool like sunlight into the mixture. The rain continues to play its quiet rhythm on the windows, a steady silver metronome. You hum softly as you mix, nothing recognizable, just a tune shaped by motion. The oven warms behind you, casting heat into the space in slow waves. You grease a loaf pan, line it with parchment, and pour the batter in thick, golden, rippling in gentle folds. As it bakes, the kitchen transforms. The scent begins faintly, almost shy. Then it grows, lemon and sugar and butter curl together in the air, weaving into the warmth of the room, mixing with the cedar and wool from earlier in the day. It becomes the new center of the house, this fragrance, this golden, edible hush. You wash the mixing bowl by hand, slowly letting the warm water and the sound of rain blend in your ears. The cat appears, of course, tail high, curling around your ankles as if summoned by the scent. You smile down at her, give her a slow scratch between the ears. She blinks in appreciation, then curls into a loaf of her own on the corner mat. As if joining the moment by example, you open the window just a crack. Rain-scented air flows in, and with it, the deeper hush of the outside world. Distant thunder, maybe, or just the sound of wet leaves shifting in the trees. When the timer chimes a small, bell-like note to move gently, no rush, as if your hands and the air have made an agreement to move only with care. You open the oven door, and the warmth greets you fully now, like a long-awaited embrace. The cake is golden. Its edges have curled ever so slightly inward, and the top has cracked down the center just a little, like it's exhaled. You lift it out, set it gently on the counter, and breathe. You let it rest, and while it cools, you stir together the glaze. Just a touch of melted butter, more lemon, a whisper of powdered sugar. It forms a soft, shining drizzle, which you pour across the top in slow ribbons. It sinks, disappears, then glistens again, pooling into the crevices like morning light finding its way across a folded blanket. You slice one piece, not large, not small. You carry it to the table and sit, the kitchen still holding the warmth of the oven and the hush of the storm. The cat purrs softly from her corner. Outside, the world remains blurred and soft. You take the first bite. It is not extraordinary, but it is everything. The crumb is soft, moist, faintly warm. The lemon is bright, but never sharp. The glaze adds sweetness in just the right measure. It's a cake made for moments like this, for rain and quiet, for steady firelight and rooms that breathe. You eat slowly, between bites. You rest your fork, sip cool water from a glass, and listen. The rain has changed now, still steady, but more distant, as if it, too, is settling in, as if it has finished its part of the evening, and now simply wants to linger, to listen with you. You finish the slice, place your fork down with care, and lean back in your chair. There is nothing to clean right away, nothing to do, only this full, gentle moment. This kitchen, this warmth, this softness around your edges, and the knowledge that you, too, are part of the rhythm here. You stand, cut another small piece, wrap it gently in parchment, and place it beneath a little ceramic cloche, just in case tomorrow morning wants a taste of this evening. You smile at that thought, and let the house hold you again. Later that night, after the dishes are quietly rinsed and the kettle is left to dry by the sink, you wander slowly through the house, guided only by lamplight and the hum of the rain outside. The hours have thickened. Time moves differently now, each minute stretching like soft taffy between your fingertips, slow and sweet and undemanding. The world has grown quieter. Even the fire has settled into a gentle glow, no longer crackling, just pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. You pass the hallway bookshelf again, running your hand gently along the spines of the old novels, some titled, others worn smooth. Your fingers pause near the end of the shelf, where a low wooden drawer sits flush against the base. You hadn't noticed it before, not in any deliberate way, but tonight it seems to call softly to your hands, as if waiting. You crouch down, careful not to disturb the cat sleeping near the hearth, and slide the drawer open with a soft pull. Inside, a neat stack of envelopes, yellowed slightly at the edges. Each one is tied together with a narrow length of green satin ribbon, faded but still holding a faint sheen in the lamplight. The ribbon has been knotted carefully, not tight, not loose, but with the quiet reverence of someone who meant for these to be opened again one day. Maybe not soon, but someday. You lift the bundle gently and carry it to the armchair. The cushion greets you with a soft give, as though it, too, remembers this ritual. You tuck a blanket around your legs, balance the bundle in your lap, and let your fingers rest on the ribbon for a moment before loosening it. The letters fall slightly open, like breath being released. Each envelope bears a name you don't recognize. Not yours, not anyone you know. But the handwriting is familiar in a way that defies logic. Slanted, looping, thoughtful. Letters formed with care, but not precision. As though written in long evenings by candlelight. You slide one letter from its envelope and unfold it. Dearest M, it begins. The lantern has been lit every night since you left. I find myself watching its reflection in the windows more than I look out to sea. The rain came this morning and stayed most of the day. I sat by the fire and thought of how you used to tuck your knees beneath you in that old blue chair and hum without realizing. You pause. You can see it clearer than a memory. The blue chair, the fire, the rain beyond the window. You turn the page. There is rosemary blooming by the fence. I picked a few sprigs and pressed them between the pages of the field journal. You said once it smelled like the past remembering itself. I believe you were right. A smile touches your lips. You reach for another letter. April 19th. The sea was glass this morning, not a ripple. Even the gulls seemed uncertain of where to land. I walked the path behind the house and found the old bench still standing. I brushed the lichen from its edge and sat for a long while. It is quieter without your voice beside me, but I am beginning to enjoy the silence as its own sort of conversation. Each letter is like a doorway, opening not into drama, but into deeply lived days. Full of teacups, fog, cats on windowsills, small observations that together form something much larger, life made of noticing. The ribbon, the paper, the inkall carry weight, but not the kind that burdens. This is a weight that grounds, a comfort. You unfold another. The cake turned out better this time. I used your trick adding the lemon zest last so the oils wouldn't vanish in the mixing. The scent lingered in the kitchen long after the oven cooled. I left a slice for you, even though I knew you wouldn't come by today. It's become a habit I can't quite let go of. The room is utterly still. Even the rain seems to hush. You let the letter rest on your lap and tilt your head back, eyes closing for just a moment. It isn't about who wrote the letters, or who they were written to. What matters is the care, the way they folded the paper, the way they chose their words with gentleness, the way someone thought, this moment is worth keeping. The letters remind you that every quiet gesture matters, that no moment is too small to be cherished, that simply being here now with the firelight flickering and the cat asleep and the rain tapping its steady rhythm is enough. You gather the pages again and smooth them gently. Retie the ribbon not too tight. You return them to their drawer with a kind of reverence, as though placing them into a bed made just for them. And when you stand, you leave the drawer slightly ajar, as if to say, you'll be back, not to solve a mystery, but to spend time in the presence of slow love as you pass through the room. You dim the lamps, one by one. The fire gives its soft farewell glow. The cat lifts her head to watch you, then settles again without worry. The house feels full not of noise, but of meaning, and you carry that fullness with you gently into the night. The house has grown quieter now, in the way that only night can teach a place to be. The lamps have been dimmed, the fire has curled into soft embers, and the cat has disappeared to wherever she disappears when the world has turned inward. The clock no longer counts, the minutes, it simply keeps them safe. The house itself has taken on the hush of a deep breath held loosely, and all that remains is your presence within it. You move through the hallway slowly, fingers grazing the painted, while, past the bookshelf, the linen curtains, the rooms that now glow only faintly with memory. Each doorway holds a story, each step holds softness. You stop at the front door, where the lantern still hangs. Its glow is gentle, now not bright, not demanding, just a warm, quiet promise. A golden whisper suspended in glass, swinging ever so slightly in the night breeze. It lights the porch in a way that feels like it's holding space, not just for you, but for something larger than memory, something tender. You open the door slowly and step out. The night has cooled, and the air brushes your cheeks with a softness that feels almost like touch. You draw your shawl closer around your shoulders and breathe it in. The world outside the lantern house is entirely still, except for the soft sound of leaves shifting and the sea exhaling somewhere in the distance. Above you, the stars have come, not suddenly, not all at once, but as if they, too, had to climb slowly into the night. They scatter gently across the sky, no rush, no urgency. Some are sharp and clear, others dim and wavering, like candle flames seen from afar. You tilt your head back and take them in. There's no need to name them, no urge to trace their shapes. It is enough to see them, to know they are watching. Quietly. You sit on the porch step, the wood cool beneath you. The lantern sways above your head, casting a soft, circular light around your feet. You tuck your hands into your sleeves, your breath curling in faint clouds that disappear almost as soon as they form. And you listen, to the slow stars, to the hush of the world, to your own breathing. The scent of the night is layered now, salt from the bay, pine from the edge of the garden, the faint sweetness of rosemary stirred by wind, a trace of cooled embers from the hearth, everything resting, everything allowed to simply be. You think of the journal, of the letters, of the lemon cake and the quiet bench beneath the pear tree, of the cat curled into shadows and the tea that warmed your hands, of the ferns and fog and the blue chair in the window room, of all the still things that, together, made something living. You are part of it now, not a visitor, a keeper, a soul stitched gently into the fabric of this place. Not loudly, not forever, but with the grace of having paused here, of having belonged, however briefly, to a house that remembers how to rest. You close your eyes. Behind your lids, the stars still glimmer, the lantern still glows, and everything continues without rush. Minutes drift like snowflakes through silence. Somewhere behind you, the cat pads softly across the porch boards and curls beside you without sound. You feel her warmth against your side and smile into the dark. She doesn't purr, not this time. She simply is. As are you. You open your eyes once more and gaze up. The stars are patient, the sky wide, the night endless in its kindness, and you held gently in the quiet arms of the lantern house begin to drift. Not away, but deeper, into slowness, into peace, into the great, soft stillness that lives in all things that have loved and been loved in return. You let yourself lean into it. Let your breathing match the rhythm of the world. Let your eyes grow heavy, and as the lantern light flickers gently in the night breeze, and the stars turn slowly overhead, you finally, tenderly let go.